In the quiet cemetery, a black girl knelt before the billionaire's gravestone, sobbing as if her heart had shattered into pieces no one could see. What she never imagined was that the man she mourned was alive, hidden behind a tree, watching her grieve him. And the truth he was about to reveal would change both their lives forever. The cemetery felt heavy, wrapped in silence that made every breath seem too loud. Sky walked slowly toward the black marble stone, her worn sneakers crunching on gravel, her small hands clutching a folded letter she'd written in the dark when no one was watching. It had been 2 months since billionaire philanthropist Cassian Reese died in a car explosion that made headlines across the country. 2 months since the man who told her she mattered disappeared without a goodbye. The girl had spent weeks at the youth center waiting for him to return, believing his assistant's excuses about urgent meetings and unexpected travel. But then, the news broke. Tragic. Final. Permanent. Cassian didn't question it. The world didn't question it, and Sky drowned in grief no 12-year-old should carry alone. Since then, she survived on scholarship money that appeared from nowhere, apartment repairs she never requested, and the haunting feeling that someone invisible was watching over her. But grief made her believe in ghosts, not miracles. Kneeling before the gravestone, Sky let the weight of 2 months crush her at once. She placed the letter at the base of the stone, whispering, "Was I not enough for you to stay?" Behind the tree, Cassian Reese, alive, breathing, broken, pressed his fist to his mouth to stop the sound climbing up his throat. He had faked his death to protect her from people who wanted to use her against him. He had watched her cry here every week, hidden in shadows, believing distance was love. But today, everything would change, because the dead man was about to step out of hiding. And the girl who thought she lost him was about to learn the cruelest truth of all. He never left. He just chose to break her heart to keep it beating. Before we dive into Sky's story, I want to know, where are you watching this from? Drop your city and country in the comments right now. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, as that is one of the ways you can use to support the work we do here. All right, let's go back to where it all started. The cemetery was too clean for the mess Sky felt inside. She stood in front of a black marble gravestone with a face she recognized staring back at her. The photo was professional, serious, the kind rich people use when they want to be remembered a certain way. Cassian Reese, visionary, philanthropist, gone too soon. White roses sat at the base. Someone left a plaque about his charity work. Foundation names carved in gold. Everything polished, everything perfect. None of it mattered. Sky's sneakers were worn down at the heels. Her jacket sleeves covered her hands because it was too big. Her fingers shook as she held a folded letter against her chest. She stopped walking when she reached the stone. Her eyes burned before she even opened her mouth. Behind the tree, hidden where shadows gathered thick, a man watched her. Same sharp jawline, same broad shoulders, same eyes that used to look calm but now looked haunted. Cassian Reese wasn't dead, but the only person who ever made him feel human was standing at his grave, thinking he abandoned her. His breath caught in his throat. She's here. Sky stared at the gravestone like it owed her answers. "I don't know why I came," she whispered. Her voice cracked. "You're not even here. You left before I could say anything." Cassian's chest tightened. She took one step closer, then another. Her knees wobbled. "People keep telling me you were a good man," she said quietly. "They say you helped so many kids, built schools, funded programs." A tear slid down her cheek. "But you didn't even say goodbye to me." The words hit him like a fist. Sky's hands shook harder. Was I not important enough? Did I matter less than your meetings, less than your donations, less than whatever you were running from? Cassian pressed his palm against the tree to keep himself from moving. He wanted to run to her, wanted to drop to his knees, wanted to tell her she was the only thing that ever mattered. But if anyone saw him alive, she'd become a target again. The men who threatened her before would come back, and this time they wouldn't stop. So he stayed hidden, watching the girl he loved cry at a grave built on lies. Sky pulled the letter from her pocket. The paper was soft at the edges. She'd been holding it for weeks. "I wrote this after you stopped showing up at the center," she said, voice breaking. "I was going to give it to you if you ever came back." She knelt down slowly. Her knees hit the grass, her small body folded forward like grief had weight. "I guess this is the only way now," she whispered. She placed the letter at the base of the stone. Her fingers lingered on the marble. Cold, unmoving. Nothing like the man who used to listen to her like every word mattered. Behind the tree, Cassian bit down on his knuckle to stop the sound climbing up his throat. A sob. A scream. A confession he couldn't make. He watched her shoulders shake. Watched her wipe her face with her sleeve. Watched her try to hold herself together in a world that kept breaking her apart. And he realized something worse than losing her. She survived. But she'd been surviving alone. And she thought it was because he chose to leave. Before the grave, before the lies, Cassian was just a man who signed checks and never looked back. He built schools he never visited. Funded hospitals he never stepped into. His assistant handed him papers. He signed. Money moved. Problems disappeared on spreadsheets. It worked until the day he actually showed up somewhere. His PR team called it good optics, cameras, handshakes, a youth center ribbon cutting. Another story for the news cycle. That's where he saw her. A skinny black girl sitting alone in the corner, knees pulled up, notebook open. She wasn't fighting for his attention like the others. Wasn't rehearsed with thank yous, just drawing, quietly, like nothing in that building belonged to her. Cassian paused mid-handshake. "What are you working on?" he asked, keeping his voice professional. She looked up, eyes sharp but careful. "A better version of this place. More books, less cracked windows." She tilted the notebook so he could see. Messy. Detailed. Hopeful. Something in his chest shifted. He learned her name was Sky. Learned she walked herself there every day. Learned her mom worked double shifts and her dad wasn't around. For the first time in his life, a kid wasn't a statistic. She was a person who asked him, "Do you actually care or do you just write checks?" That question kept him awake for 3 nights straight. Cassian didn't mean to get involved, he just kept showing up when Sky was there. He funded a mentorship program, then made sure he was one of the mentors. His team thought it was branding. Shh, they didn't know it was survival. Sky sat with him at a corner table every Tuesday. Notebook open. Pencil between her teeth. "You don't smile with your whole face," she told him one afternoon. "Only the bottom half?" He blinked. "What does that mean?" "Means you don't trust happiness. I get it. I don't either." She talked about school, about kids who picked on her for wearing old shoes, about teachers who thought quiet meant she didn't know anything. He listened more than he talked, but when he did speak, he said things he wished someone had told him when he was small. "You're allowed to take up space. Your ideas matter. You're not lucky I helped. You were already worth helping." In public, he was Cassian Reese, billionaire, philanthropist, shaking hands, signing checks. At that corner table with Sky, he was just a man who bought her hot chocolate and tried not to panic when she fell asleep with her head on his arm. She started drawing the two of them together in her sketchbook. Tall figure in a suit, small figure in a cardigan, holding hands, little hearts floating above their heads. He kept every single one in his desk drawer. One night, staring at those drawings, he realized something terrifying. Money had never done anything as valuable as getting him to that table, and losing her would hurt more than losing everything else combined. He didn't know how right he was. Cassian didn't become a target because he was rich. He became a target because he stopped ignoring where the money went. His foundation uncovered a chain of officials stealing funds meant for kids like Sky. Money earmarked for programs disappeared into private accounts. Buildings that should have been fixed stayed broken. Books that should have been bought never arrived. Cassian didn't bury the report. He pushed for arrests, public trials, real consequences. That's when the first threat showed up. A note slipped under his office door. No signature, just 8 words. Maybe keep this quiet, for everyone's sake. He burned it. 2 weeks later, another message. This one nastier. A photo of the youth center circled in red ink. We know what you care about. Back off. Cassian increased security, changed schedules, hired people who knew how to watch without being seen. But he kept pushing. He couldn't look at Sky's drawings of better worlds and then leave the rot in place. The threats got worse. License plates traced to cars that shouldn't be near the kids. Unnamed messages mentioning program names and addresses. Photos of children walking home. We don't have to touch you to hurt you, one message said. You've given us plenty of options. He knew exactly what that meant. Children, his programs, the places where he finally let his heart exist outside his chest. He didn't tell Sky. He didn't want to put fear in her eyes. He just started showing up less. 1 missed session, then 2, then a week. His assistant made excuses. Urgent board meeting. Unexpected travel. He'll be back soon. Sky stopped believing them quickly. She sat in their corner with her notebook, eyes flicking to the door every time it opened, heart catching, then dropping when it wasn't him. After 3 weeks, another mentor said kindly, "People like him are busy, Sky. You should be grateful he came at all." She nodded because arguing took energy she didn't have. But inside, something caved. So that's how it is, she thought. Adults show up, say nice things, make you believe you matter, then leave when the story gets boring. She kept drawing anyway, drew the youth center with fixed windows, drew herself standing beside a tall figure in a suit, wrote underneath in shaky letters, "Don't disappear." One evening, passing through the lobby, she saw a television screen. Billionaire philanthropist Cassian Reese under pressure after taking on corruption network. Her chest tightened. She recognized his face, recognized his name, recognized the hope she'd accidentally attached to a man the world called untouchable. That night she fell asleep angry. Angry she let herself believe him. Angry she missed him. Angry the one person who saw her had vanished without a goodbye. Across town, Cassian sat in his office staring at another threat. This one had Sky's school address. His hands shook. He made a call he never thought he'd make. How do I disappear? The news broke early morning. Tragic car explosion claims life of beloved philanthropist Cassian Reese. Sky saw it on a flickering screen in a corner shop. The footage looped. Burnt metal. Twisted guardrail. Smoke rising into gray sky. Photos of Cassian at fancy events flashed beside the wreckage. Someone in the shop sighed. At least he did good before he went. Sky didn't move. The world blurred around the words believed to have died at the scene. Her throat closed. She couldn't swallow. No air in the room suddenly. Just the roaring sound of her heartbeat in her ears. She stumbled outside. Used the wall to hold herself upright. Her eyes burned, but tears didn't come at first. It was too big to cry about. He was gone. No explanation. No warning. No goodbye. The man who promised she mattered left the world without telling her he was leaving. He didn't stay, she whispered to the empty street, like everyone else. Her knees buckled. She sat down hard on the curb, pulled her knees to her chest, pressed her forehead against them. The tears came then, quiet at first, then harder. Shoulders shaking, breath catching in her throat like broken glass. People walked past. No one stopped. Somewhere across the city, in a safe house under a name that wasn't his, Cassian watched the same news segment, He saw crowd footage near the explosion site, thought he caught a flash of braids in the background. He reached toward the screen like he could touch it. He'd signed off on the fake death, helped plan the explosion, agreed to let the world believe he was gone. He didn't realize how much it would feel like actually dying. The plan had been simple on paper. Law enforcement told him plainly, "These people don't stop. As long as you live publicly, they'll threaten every kid your programs touch. They've already mentioned names, locations." He thought of Sky, of other kids like her, of boys and girls who finally felt safe in his centers. What are my options? Silence. Then, disappear, fake your death, cut every public tie, live like you never existed. He laughed at first. Him? Disappear? His face was on billboards, airport banners, magazine covers. But then another message arrived. Blurry photo of Sky's youth center, red circle around the entrance. Choice evaporated. He agreed. His legal death was engineered with precision. Cars switched, routes changed, controlled explosion, plausible remains, papers signed, statements released. His board held a tearful press conference. No one in his circle knew he was alive except 3 people sworn to secrecy. He told himself he was doing it for the children, for Sky. But alone in that safe house, he replayed her face the last time he'd seen her. He hadn't warned her, hadn't said goodbye, hadn't prepared her for the news that would break her heart. Now there was a grave with his name on it, and the girl who once asked if he actually cared had every reason to believe the answer was no. He pressed his palms against his eyes. "I'm sorry," he whispered to the empty room. "I'm so sorry." But sorry doesn't travel through television screens, and Sky cried on that curb until her throat hurt and her eyes burned and the world kept moving around her like nothing had changed. Sky avoided the cemetery at first. Funerals were for family, for people who belonged. She wasn't on any of those lists, but grief doesn't care about lists. 3 weeks after the news broke, after the city moved on to another story, Sky found herself on a bus that stopped 3 blocks from the cemetery. She got off without deciding to. The gates felt too heavy. She walked through them anyway, heart pounding so loud she felt it in her fingertips. Row after row of stone markers passed. She didn't look at any of them. She saw his name from a distance and stopped breathing. Cassian Reese. The letters were sharp. Perfect. The photo on the stone showed him alive and composed. It made her furious. "He still looks like he's about to give a speech," she muttered, throat tight. Her knees felt weak as she stepped closer. She hadn't brought flowers. She'd brought a letter. Folded. Worn. Edges soft from too many nights under her pillow. It was the only way she knew to talk to someone who left permanently. Behind the tree, Cassian watched her approach. He'd come to remind himself why he had to stay dead. He didn't know the person who would convince him otherwise was about to kneel at his grave. Sky's body didn't drop all at once. It was slow, like her knees were deciding if they could bear the weight and finally giving up. She knelt in front of the stone, fingers digging into grass for balance. The world tilted. His name blurred. Her hands shook as she wiped tears that wouldn't stop now that they'd started. "I hate you," she whispered, voice trembling, "for leaving without saying goodbye." Behind the tree, Cassian felt the words like punches. She reached out, touched the base of the stone, fingertips tracing the engraved dates. "I've been trying to be strong without you," she said, each word dragging itself out. "But no one sees me." Her voice was so fragile it sounded like it could disappear if the wind blew. Cassian's breath hitched every time she sniffled. He dug his nails into the bark, anchoring himself to something that wouldn't move. He'd pretended to be brave for boardrooms, for cameras, for people who praised his courage. He'd never felt as cowardly as he did hiding behind a tree from a grieving child. Sky pulled the letter from her pocket with hands that didn't feel like hers anymore. The paper was soft at the corners. creased so many times it looked like it had lived 100 lives in her palm. She placed it gently on the smooth stone, right beneath his engraved name. "I wrote this after you stopped coming," she whispered. "I was going to give it to you if you ever showed up again." Her voice cracked on again. "I guess this is the only way now." Inside the letter, in messy handwriting, were things she never said out loud. "You made me feel like I wasn't invisible. I hate that I miss you. I got an award at school but didn't tell anyone because there's no one happy for me anymore. Was I not enough for you to stay?" Cassian couldn't read the words from where he stood. He didn't need to. He saw the way she laid her hand over the letter like a final attempt to be heard. A single tear slid down his cheek. Not dramatic, just a man realizing that in trying to save her life, he'd broken her heart. Sky stared at his picture on the stone, the carefully selected image of a confident man with a public smile. "I watched you on TV after you died," she said quietly. "People said all these nice things about you. How generous you were, how you cared so much." She laughed weakly, a humorless sound. "Funny, you never even said goodbye to me." Her shoulders shook. "Was I not enough for you to stay?" The words fell out raw and unprotected. "Did I matter less than your meetings? Less than your image? Less than your safety?" Each question stabbed Cassian in a place he didn't have language for. His hand lifted toward her without conscious thought, fingers reaching through empty air. He froze halfway. He couldn't go to her. Couldn't risk someone recognizing him here. Couldn't blow the cover keeping her from being a target. He watched his hand tremble in front of him and slowly lowered it. Sky wiped her face with the back of her wrist, smearing tears across her skin. You were the first person who told me I was allowed to take up space," she whispered. "And then you disappeared. So which one was the lie?" Cassian leaned his forehead against the tree. He had no answer good enough to survive that question. Sky shuffled forward on her knees until she was close enough to touch the gravestone with her whole body. She wrapped her arms around it, lowered her cheek to the cold marble. "I miss how safe your hugs felt," she said softly. "This is the closest I can get now." Cassian's knees gave out. He slid down the tree trunk, biting the inside of his cheek to stop himself from sobbing out loud. He remembered the first time she hugged him at the center. Awkward, quick, surprising. His arms had hovered before settling clumsily around her shoulders. "You hug like you're afraid I'll break," she'd teased. He had been afraid of needing her too much. Now she was hugging stone. "I talk to you here," she admitted, palm flattened on the grave. "Because nobody listens the way you did. Even when you didn't say anything, I could feel you listening." Cassian pressed his fist against his mouth. He'd sat in countless meetings pretending to listen while thinking of other things. With Sky, he'd actually listened. Now, when she needed him most, he'd made himself into a ghost. Sky sat back on her heels, sniffled, wiped her nose on her sleeve. "Oh," she whispered suddenly, remembering. She reached into her hoodie pocket and pulled out a small folded paper, a drawing. She opened it carefully, smoothing out the wrinkles with shaking fingers. 2 figures holding hands, one tall in a suit, one small in a red cardigan. A sun drawn in the corner, little hearts floating above their heads. "I drew this hoping you'd see it," she told. "The grave. Wherever you are." Cassian's vision blurred. He'd kept every drawing she'd ever given him, stored in a drawer he couldn't open without his chest tightening. Seeing a new one felt like being handed proof that life went on without him, and that she kept loving him anyway. Sky's voice faltered. "I don't know how much longer I can pretend I'm okay." The honesty in that sentence nearly destroyed him. He knew what pretending looked like. He'd been pretending to be dead. She'd been pretending to be fine. Both were terrible lies. Okay, if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? This story only gets more intense from here. Hit that button so you don't miss what happens when she finds out the truth. And comment below, Team Cassian or Team Sky? Whose side are you on right now? Let's debate in the comments. Sky placed the drawing against the gravestone, weighed it down with a small rock so the wind wouldn't take it. She rested her forehead on the stone one last time. Eyes closed, lips moving in a whisper too soft for even the wind to hear. Then she stood up slowly, legs stiff, back aching from kneeling so long. She walked away, not quickly, not dramatically, just leaving because staying wouldn't bring him back. Cassian watched her go. Every step she took stretched the distance between them like an elastic band about to snap. He stayed crouched behind the tree, fingers clawed into the dirt. When she disappeared through the gate, he finally stood, stumbling to his car like he was learning to walk again. He sat behind the wheel, hands shaking. "I did this," he whispered. "I broke her. I did this." He closed his eyes. "Before she ever sees me again," he vowed, voice raw, "I will make sure she is safe. Not on paper, not in reports, in reality, in every corner of her life." He opened his eyes and stared at his own name on the gravestone through the windshield. "You wanted the billionaire dead," he said to his invisible enemies. "Fine. He's dead." He gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. "But Sky will live well, even if she never knows I'm the one making it happen." That night, Cassian started working like a man with nothing left to lose except his last promise. He called in old favors under new identities, moved money silently through channels that didn't trace back to Cassian Reese. First, he secured Sky's living situation. The landlord of her building got an anonymous offer too good to refuse on a neighboring property. One condition: do upgrades to all units. Sky's leaking ceiling stopped leaking. Her broken heater got replaced. Her locks changed for sturdier ones. Next came school. A scholarship appeared with her name on it, backed by a private trust. School fees vanished from her worries. Extra tutoring became available. Teachers who'd been indifferent suddenly received funding for smaller class sizes and training on recognizing quiet kids in crisis. He paid for security. Around the youth center, too, cloaked as infrastructure grants, every step he took was quiet, invisible, deliberate. He rebuilt her world from the shadows the way he'd once rebuilt communities from boardrooms, except this time all the spreadsheets had only one name at the top: Sky. He worked through the night, through the next day, through meals he forgot to eat, and sleep he couldn't find. His assistant from his old life called the safe house. "Sir, you need to rest. Your body can't sustain this." "She's alone," Cassian said flatly. "I'm not resting while she's alone." He hung up, pulled up another security feed showing her apartment building. Her lights were still on at 2 in the morning. Nightmare, he thought. She used to have them at the center, too. Would sit in the corner drawing until she felt safe again. He whispered into the empty room, "Please don't be scared. I'm here. I'm always here." He wasn't, but he wanted to be. And wanting hurt more than bleeding. Sky noticed the changes the way you notice weather shifting. You can't pinpoint when it started, but suddenly the air feels different. The apartment didn't shiver with cold anymore. The door closed properly. The youth center got new windows, uncracked, unclouded. Her teacher started checking in on her, asking, "How are you doing?" and not moving on when she said, "I'm fine." It was strange. Good, but strange. She held her new scholarship letter in her hands, reading the words again and again. "We are pleased to support your education. Your potential is important." "Is this you?" she asked the quiet of her bedroom. "Is this your money?" She pictured his grave, the polished stone, the expensive flowers. Dead men didn't pay for better locks. Dead men didn't fix heaters. Dead men didn't follow kids around with protection she couldn't see. But she wasn't ready to believe in miracles. She folded the letter and tucked it under her pillow next to the copy of the note she'd left on his grave. "Whoever you are," she whispered into the darkness, "thank you." Across the city, Cassian stared at a progress report and whispered back to nobody, "You're welcome." It was the closest thing to a conversation they had left. Sky returned to the cemetery the following week. This time she brought the scholarship certificate. Academic Excellence Scholarship recipient. It should have been the proudest paper she'd ever held. It felt strangely heavy. She walked the familiar path to Cassian's grave, knees already aching in anticipation of kneeling again. When she dropped down in front of the stone, she didn't just cry. She got angry. "I got this," she said, pulling out the certificate, waving it once before pressing it to the stone. "Because you told me I was smart, because you told me I could do more than people expected." Tears blurred the edges of the text. "I wanted you to be there when they gave it to me," she choked. "But you're here, in the ground, or whatever they actually buried for you." She sucked in a shaking breath. "I don't know if you died trying to be a hero or died running, but either way I'm the one who has to live with it." Behind the tree, Cassian flinched. Her anger was deserved. Her hurt was justified. He'd weaponized his own death and left her to carry the emotional fallout. "Nothing feels real anymore," Sky continued, voice breaking. "Good things keep happening, but I don't know why. My apartment got fixed, school got easier, people started paying attention." She pressed her palm flat against the stone. "Is it you? Are you doing this somehow? Or am I just losing my mind hoping you're still somewhere watching me?" Cassian pressed his palm to the rough bark, mirroring her touch through space and silence. "I'm here," he whispered. "I'm right here." But the word stayed trapped between his lips and the tree. Sky wiped her eyes. "I keep pretending everything's okay, that I'm handling it, that I don't need anyone." Her voice dropped to almost nothing. "But I'm tired, Cassian. I'm so tired of being strong alone." She stayed kneeling there for 20 more minutes, not saying anything, just existing in the space where his name was carved. When she finally left, Cassian didn't move for another hour, just stood there with his hand on the tree, wishing bark could conduct heartbeats. The people Cassian crossed didn't disappear when he did. They just changed tactics. Some believed he was dead, some didn't. Money still moved in ways they didn't like. Programs still pushed against their interests. Someone somewhere was still fighting for kids that were easier to exploit when hopeless. Rumors began. Cassian's ghost, Cassian's network, Cassian's reach beyond the grave. One night, Sky came home from school and felt eyes on her. She turned. A car idled too long at the corner. 2 men inside, not looking at her directly, but not looking either. Her throat tightened. She walked faster, hands cold, spine prickling. Upstairs she locked the door, heart pounding, pressed her back against it. "Not again," she whispered. "Please, not again." She didn't understand what not again meant. She'd never been threatened before, but something deep in her bones recognized danger the way animals recognize storms. She peeked through the curtain. The car was still there. Across town, Cassian got a call from one of his silent watchers. Movement near her building. Same plates as before. His pulse slammed. He grabbed his coat and left before the report finished. He'd faked his death to stop them from using her. Now they were circling her anyway. And he was done hiding behind trees. Cassian arrived near Sky's building just as the sky turned the color of old bruises. He parked far enough away not to be obvious, close enough to sprint if he had to. He saw the car, same one from the watcher's report. Same men who'd hovered near program sites months earlier. He watched one of them step out, look up at Sky's window. Something inside Cassian snapped clean in two. He crossed the street before his mind caught up with his feet. "Looking for someone?" he asked quietly. The man turned and froze. For a split second, recognition flickered. Then he laughed, harsh and disbelieving. "You're supposed to be dead." Cassian didn't answer. He stepped closer. Low voice edged with steel. "Stay away from this building. Stay away from that girl. Stay away from anything that has my name on it, even if the world thinks that name's in the ground." The second man stepped out. Trouble hung in the air like static. Words were exchanged, threats implicit. Cassian's jaw tight, fists clenched at his sides. "You think faking your death protects her?" the first man sneered. "It just proves she matters to you." Cassian's voice dropped. "If you touch her, there won't be enough of you left to bury." The confrontation escalated, shoving, a shove back. Cassian absorbing hits he hadn't trained for, fueled by something stronger than skill, fear, love, desperation. Building security finally arrived, pulled them apart. The men were escorted off the property with warnings. Cassian leaned against the wall, breathing hard, chest burning, split lip, bruised ribs, hands shaking, but they were gone. Upstairs, Sky peeked through her curtain, catching only the back of a man in a coat, head bowed, hand pressed to his side. He looked strangely familiar, like someone she watched get buried. She pressed her palm against the window. The man looked up briefly, just a flash, not long enough for her to see his face clearly in the dim light. Then he walked away, and she was left with a feeling she couldn't name, like protection, like ghost, like maybe dead men could still throw punches for people they loved. Cassian didn't go back to the safe house. He sat in his car 3 blocks away, watching the security feed on his phone. Sky's apartment window glowing in the dark. Her lights stayed on. She was awake, probably scared, probably replaying what she'd seen from her window. He wanted to call her, wanted to knock on her door, wanted to tell her she was safe now, but he couldn't. Not yet. His ribs ached where he'd been hit. His lip was split. His knuckles were scraped. None of it mattered. She was okay. That's all that mattered. He leaned his head back against the seat, closed his eyes, breathed through the pain. "I'm sorry," he whispered to no one. "I'm so sorry you had to be scared." The next morning, Sky walked to school looking over her shoulder every few steps. The car was gone. The men were gone. But the feeling stayed. At lunch, she sat alone in the corner of the cafeteria, picking at food she couldn't taste. A teacher stopped by her table. "You okay, Sky?" She looked up, forced a smile. "Yeah, just tired." The teacher didn't push, just nodded and walked away. Sky stared at her tray. She wasn't okay. Something happened last night. Something she didn't understand but felt in her chest like a bruise. After school, she went straight to the cemetery. She didn't plan to. Her feet just carried her there. She knelt at Cassian's grave. Same spot as always. "Someone was outside my building last night," she said quietly. "I don't know who. I don't know why. But I felt unsafe for the first time in weeks." She pressed her fingers into the grass. Then someone else showed up. I only saw his back. But whoever he was, he made them leave. Her voice wavered. "I keep thinking it was you. I know that sounds crazy. You're dead. You're in the ground. But nothing makes sense anymore." She pulled her knees to her chest. "Good things keep happening. Bad things get stopped. And I'm stuck in the middle, not knowing if I'm being protected or if I'm losing my mind." Behind the tree, Cassian listened. Every word, every breath, every crack in her voice. He wanted to step out, wanted to tell her she wasn't crazy, wanted to prove he was real and alive and never stopped caring, but revealing himself now would put her in more danger. The men who came last night weren't working alone. If they knew he was alive, they'd use her to draw him out, and he couldn't let that happen, so he stayed hidden. Again, Sky wiped her eyes. I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know if any of this matters, but I'm trying to hold on. She stood slowly. I just wish I knew if you were proud of me. If I'm doing okay without you. If I'm enough. Cassian's throat closed. You're more than enough, he whispered, voice breaking. You're everything. But she didn't hear him. She walked away, and he stayed behind the tree, watching her leave, wishing love didn't require so much distance. That night, Cassian made another vow. I'll find who sent them. I'll make sure they never come back, and then I'll find a way to tell you I never left. He stared at the security feed. Her lights were on again. Another sleepless night for both of them. Separated by lies, connected by love, neither of them could speak out loud. Cassian didn't sleep that night, or the next, or the one after that. He spent every hour tracking the men who'd shown up at Sky's building, tracing connections, following money trails, building a case that would bury them permanently. He didn't eat unless his assistant forced food in front of him. He didn't rest unless his body shut down mid-task. One night while reviewing files, his vision blurred, his chest tightened. He reached for his desk, but his legs buckled. He collapsed. When he woke up, a doctor stood over him in a private clinic his team had rushed him to. Your body is shutting down, the doctor said bluntly. You're pushing beyond human limits. If you don't stop, your heart will. Cassian tried to sit up. I can't stop. The doctor pressed him back down. You'll die if you keep this up. Then I die, Cassian said flatly. But she lives safely. That's the deal. The doctor stared at him. Who is she? Cassian closed his eyes. The only person who ever made me feel like I mattered for something other than my money. They released him against medical advice. He went straight back to work. Pulled up the security feed. Sky's apartment. Her lights were on at 3 a.m. again. Nightmare. He knew those nights, knew what it felt like to wake up choking on fear with no one to tell you it wasn't real. He pressed his hand against the screen. I'm here, he whispered. I'm always here. But here wasn't close enough. Here was a safe house across the city. Here was behind a tree at a cemetery. Here was everywhere except where she needed him. His phone buzzed, a message from his lead investigator. Found the source, names, locations, enough to prosecute. Cassian exhaled for what felt like the first time in days. It was almost over, almost safe, almost time, but almost wasn't good enough yet. He typed back, make sure it's airtight, no loose ends, no room for retaliation. He leaned back in his chair, stared at the ceiling. His chest ached. Not from the hits he took, from something deeper, from loving someone so much that staying away felt like dying slowly, from protecting someone who thought protection meant abandonment, from being alive, but living like a ghost. 3 days later, Sky returned to the cemetery. She'd been coming every week now, like a routine, like therapy she couldn't afford any other way. She knelt at his grave, pulled out another drawing. This one was darker, messier. A small figure standing alone under storm clouds. No sun in the corner this time. I don't know how to be okay, she told the stone. Everyone keeps saying it gets easier, but it doesn't. It just gets quieter. She pressed the drawing against the marble. I'm scared I'm forgetting what your voice sounded like. I'm scared I'm forgetting how it felt when you listened. I'm scared I'm turning into someone who doesn't believe good things last. Her voice broke. I'm scared I'm right. Behind the tree, Cassian gripped the bark so hard splinters dug into his palm. He'd been in negotiations where billions were on the line and never flinched. But listening to a child lose hope because of him made him want to scream. He stepped forward. One step. Just one. His body moving before his brain could stop it. Then he froze. A car passed on the road nearby. A jogger ran past the gates. Witnesses, risk, danger. He stepped back into the shadows, hating himself more with every second. Sky stood up slowly. "I'll come back next week," she said to the grave. "I always do." She walked away. Small shoulders, heavy heart, alone. Cassian watched her go, and made a decision that terrified him more than faking his death ever did. It was time to stop hiding. Cassian sat in the safe house staring at his phone. One call would change everything. One call would bring him back to life. Legally, publicly, permanently. His finger hovered over the contact, his lead investigator, the one who'd been building the case against the people who threatened Sky. He pressed dial. "It's time," Cassian said when the man answered. "File everything. Arrest warrants, evidence, all of it. I want them in custody before the week ends." Silence on the other end. Then, "And you?" "I'm coming back," Cassian said quietly. "I can't stay dead anymore." "You sure?" "Once you resurface, there's no going back. Your enemies will know. The media will swarm. Your life becomes public again." Cassian closed his eyes. "I know. But staying hidden isn't protecting her anymore. It's just hurting her differently." He hung up, opened his laptop, started drafting a statement he never thought he'd write. "To whom it may concern, reports of my death were intentional, but false. I disappeared to protect people I care about from those who wanted to use them against me. That threat has now been neutralized." His hands shook as he typed. Not from fear. From the weight of knowing Sky would read this. Would learn he'd been alive the whole time she cried at his grave. Would she forgive him? Would she understand? Or would she hate him for every tear she shed thinking he abandoned her? He didn't know. But he couldn't keep choosing her safety over her heart. She needed both. The arrests happened quietly. Early morning raids, no media, no spectacle, just efficiency. By noon, 7 people were in custody, charged with extortion, threats, corruption. Cassian's investigator called. "It's done. They're not getting out." Cassian exhaled. "You're sure?" "Evidence is solid. Testimonies are locked. They're finished." For the first time in months, Cassian felt something close to relief. Sky was safe. Actually safe. Not safe because he was watching from shadows. Safe because the danger was gone. He scheduled the press conference for 2 days later, spent those 2 days rehearsing what he'd say, how he'd explain, how he'd apologize to a world that mourned him, and a girl who cried at his grave. Nothing sounded right. Every version felt like an excuse. The night before the press conference, he drove to the cemetery, stood in front of his own grave for the first time, stared at his name, his face, the dates that declared him gone. "Tomorrow I stop being dead," he said to the stone. "Tomorrow I become the man who broke a little girl's heart to keep her safe." He knelt down, saw the drawings Sky had left, saw the letters, saw the scholarship certificate. His chest hurt. "I don't know if you'll forgive me," he whispered. "I don't know if I deserve it. But I need you to know I never left. Not really. I was always right here." He pressed his hand against the cold marble. "I'm coming back, Sky. And I'm scared you won't want me to." The wind picked up. Rustling leaves, carrying nothing back. He stood slowly. Walked to his car. Tomorrow, the world would learn Cassian Reese was alive, but only one person's reaction mattered, and he had no idea if she'd see his return as a miracle or a betrayal. He drove away from his own grave, hands shaking, heart breaking, hoping love was stronger than the lies he told to protect it. The press conference was scheduled for 10 a.m. Sky would probably be in school. She'd hear about it from a classmate, from a teacher, from a phone notification. She'd learn he was alive the same way she learned he was dead. From strangers, from screens, not from him. He hated that, but there was no gentle way to come back from the dead. The press conference room was packed. Cameras, reporters, flashing lights, microphones crowding the podium like they could pull truth faster. Cassian stood backstage, suit pressed, tie straight, hands clasped in front of him to stop them from shaking. His assistant touched his shoulder. "You ready?" He wasn't, but he nodded anyway. He walked out. The room erupted. Questions shouted over each other, camera shutters clicking like rapid fire. He raised his hand. Silence fell slowly. "My name is Cassian Reese," he began, voice steady despite everything. "And I'm alive." Gasps, murmurs. Someone dropped a phone. "Months ago I made the decision to fake my death. Not for attention, not for escape, but because people I loved were being threatened. Children in my programs were being used as leverage against me." He paused, swallowed hard. "I was told the only way to protect them was to disappear. So I did. I let the world believe I was gone. I let people grieve me. I let someone very important to me think I abandoned her." His voice cracked slightly on her. "The individuals responsible for those threats have been arrested. The danger is gone, and I can no longer justify staying hidden when the person I was protecting needed me present, not absent." A reporter shouted, "Who were you protecting?" Cassian looked directly at the camera. "Someone who deserves better than I gave her. Someone I failed by choosing her safety over her heart." Another reporter. "Do you regret faking your death?" "Every single day," Cassian said without hesitation. "Especially every time she cried at my grave and I couldn't step out from behind the tree." The room went silent. "You watched her grieve you?" someone asked quietly. "Yes," his voice barely above a whisper. "And it destroyed me more than any threat ever could." Across the city, Sky sat in math class. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Once, twice, 10 times. Her teacher glanced over. "Sky, is everything okay?" She pulled out her phone. Notifications flooded her screen. Breaking news. Billionaire Cassian Reese alive. Cassian Reese press conference. I faked my death. Reese reveals. He watched someone grieve at his grave. Her hands went numb. The phone slipped from her fingers, hit the floor. The teacher rushed over. "Sky?" She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process the words alive and watched and grave in the same sentence. "I need to go," she whispered. "What?" "I need to go." Louder now, desperate. She stood, grabbed her bag, ran, out of the classroom, down the hall, through the front doors. She didn't know where she was going. Her feet knew. They carried her to the bus stop, onto the bus, 3 blocks from the cemetery. She ran the rest of the way, lungs burning, vision blurred, heart slamming against her ribs. She pushed through the cemetery gates, ran down the path, stopped in front of his grave, the one with his name, his face, his lies carved in stone. "You were alive," she said to the marble, voice shaking. "You were alive the whole time." Her knees gave out. She collapsed in front of the gravestone, not kneeling this time, just falling. "I cried here," she choked out. "I told you I wasn't enough. I told you I missed you. I brought you drawings. I brought you letters." Tears streamed down her face. "And you were watching me." Her voice broke on watching. "You were right there and you didn't say anything." She pressed her hands against the stone, fingers curling, nails scraping marble. "I hate you," she whispered. "I hate you so much." Behind the tree, Cassian stepped out. No more hiding, no more distance. "I know," he said quietly. Sky froze. That voice. She turned slowly and saw him. Alive. Real. Standing 10 feet away like a ghost made flesh. Sky stared at him. Her brain couldn't connect the pieces. The man in front of her, the name on the stone, the months of grief she carried alone. "You're alive," she whispered. Cassian nodded. "I'm alive." Her face twisted. Confusion bleeding into anger. "You're alive." "Yes." "You let me think you were dead." He flinched. "Yes." "You watched me cry here." "Yes." Her voice rose. "You watched me and you didn't say anything?" If this confrontation has you in your feelings right now, do me a favor and subscribe. Trust me, you'll want to see how they rebuild from this. And I need you to comment. Is Cassian's excuse good enough? Was faking his death justified? Your answer might surprise you. Drop it below. "I couldn't," he said, voice breaking. "If anyone saw us together, they would have come after you again. I had to make sure you were safe first." "Safe?" Sky stood up, legs shaking. "I haven't felt safe since the day you disappeared." Cassian stepped closer. "I know. I'm sorry." "Sorry?" She laughed, sharp, bitter. "You're sorry? I cried at your grave. I wrote you letters. I brought you drawings. I thought I wasn't enough for you to stay." Each word hit him like a blow. "You were always enough," he said desperately. "You were everything. That's why I had to leave. Because they threatened you. Because loving you made you a target." "So you faked your death?" Her voice cracked. "You let me grieve you? You let me think I lost the only person who ever cared?" I didn't know what else to do. Tears slid down his face. "They had your school address. They knew where you lived. They were going to hurt you to hurt me." "So you hurt me instead," she whispered. The words stopped him cold. Because she was right. He hurt her trying to save her. "I watched you every day," he said quietly. "I fixed your apartment. I paid for your scholarship. I made sure you were protected. I never left. I was just hidden." "Hidden," Sky repeated, voice hollow. "You were hidden while I fell apart." "I know. You were hidden while I told your grave I didn't know how much longer I could pretend to be okay." His chest caved. "I heard you." "You heard me?" Her voice rose again. "You heard me and you still didn't come out?" "I was scared," he admitted. "I was scared that keeping you safe meant losing you. And I was willing to lose you if it meant you got to live." Sky shook her head, tears falling freely now. "You don't get to decide that for me. You don't get to choose my safety over my feelings. You don't get to break my heart and call it protection." "You're right." He took another step closer. "You're absolutely right. I made the wrong choice. I thought I was saving you, but I was just making you carry grief you didn't need to carry." She wiped her face with her sleeve. "I missed you so much it hurt to breathe." "I missed you too." "No," she pointed at him. "You don't get to say that. Missing someone means they're gone. You weren't gone. You were hiding. That's different." He nodded. "You're right. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Stop saying sorry," she choked out. "Sorry doesn't fix the nights I couldn't sleep. Sorry doesn't fix the times I needed you and thought you were dead. Sorry doesn't fix anything." Cassian dropped to his knees, right there in front of her. "Then tell me what does," he said. Voice raw. "Tell me what I can do to make this right. Tell me how to fix what I broke." Sky stared down at him. The man who rebuilt communities, who moved mountains with money, who everyone called untouchable, on his knees, begging her for forgiveness. "I don't know," she whispered. "I don't know if you can." Cassian stayed on his knees, waiting. Not because he thought he deserved forgiveness, but because he didn't know what else to do. Sky looked away, stared at the gravestone with his name on it. "I told this stone things I never told anyone," she said quietly. "I told it I was scared, that I felt invisible, that I didn't know how to keep going. Her voice wavered. And you heard all of it. I did. That's not fair. She turned back to him, eyes red. You got to know everything I felt, but I didn't get to know you were alive. I didn't get a choice. You're right. Stop saying that, she snapped. Stop agreeing with me like it makes this okay. It doesn't. Cassian swallowed hard. What do you want me to say? I don't know. She wrapped her arms around herself. I don't know what I want. I'm angry. I'm relieved. I'm confused. I hate you. I missed you. I don't know which one is stronger. You can feel all of it, he said softly. You're allowed to be angry and relieved at the same time. Don't tell me what I'm allowed to feel. Her voice broke. You don't get to do that anymore. He nodded, stayed quiet. Sky paced in front of the grave, hands shaking, breath uneven. I wrote you a letter, she said suddenly. The one I left here. Do you know what it said? No. It said I didn't know if I was enough for you to stay. She stopped pacing, looked at him. It said I tried so hard to matter and you still left. Cassian's throat closed. You read that, she continued. You knew I thought I wasn't enough, and you still didn't tell me the truth. I thought keeping you safe was more important than keeping your heart whole, he admitted. I was wrong. You were. She wiped her eyes. Because my heart broke anyway, and I was alone when it happened. Cassian stood slowly. I can't take that back. I can't undo the months you spent thinking I was gone. But I can promise you'll never be alone like that again. How do I trust that? She asked, voice small. How do I trust anything you say after this? I don't know, he said honestly. I don't know how to rebuild trust I destroyed, but I'll spend as long as it takes trying. Sky stared at him, at the man who looked thinner than she remembered, tired, worn down by something heavier than money or power. Did you really watch me every day? She asked. Every day. Even when I came here? Especially then. Her face crumpled. That's so cruel. I know. You should have told me. Tears streamed down her cheeks. You should have trusted me to handle the truth. You're a kid, he said gently. You shouldn't have to handle threats and danger and fear. That's my job. I'm not a kid, she said. I'm someone who lost the only person who made me feel like I mattered. That's not something kids are supposed to survive. Cassian's tears fell freely now. You mattered, he said, voice shaking. You mattered more than anything. That's why I left. That's why I stayed hidden. Because if something happened to you because of me, I wouldn't survive it. Sky looked at the gravestone again, at the flowers, the letters, the drawings she'd left. I brought you so many things, she whispered. I kept talking to you, even though I thought you couldn't hear me. I heard every word. She turned back to him. Then you know I told you I loved you. Cassian froze. I told this grave I loved you, she continued. Because I didn't get to say it before you died. Except, you didn't die. So now I don't know what that means. It means everything, he whispered. Sky shook her head. Don't do that. Don't make this about love when you're the one who broke my heart. I broke your heart trying to keep it beating, Cassian said. That doesn't make it right. But that's the truth. The truth? She laughed bitterly. You wouldn't. No truth if it stood in front of you. You built a grave. You let the world mourn you. You hid while I suffered. I know. Stop knowing. Her voice cracked. Stop understanding. Be wrong for once. Fight back. Tell me I'm being unfair. You're not being unfair, she screamed. Not words, just sound, frustration and grief and rage pouring out of her in one raw burst. Cassian didn't move, just let her scream. When she stopped, chest heaving, tears streaming, she looked at him. I needed you, she whispered. I needed you and you chose to be a ghost. I was wrong, he said. I thought being a ghost kept you alive, but it just made you feel dead too. Sky wiped her face. I got an award at school. Top of my class. You know what I did with it? He shook his head. I brought it here, to your grave, because there was no one else to tell. Her voice broke. I had no one to be proud of me. Cassian's knees nearly gave out again. I was proud, he said. I saw the report. I celebrated alone in a safe house, wishing I could tell you to your face. But you didn't. No, I didn't. Sky turned away from him, stared at the trees beyond the graves. I don't know how to feel about you anymore. That's okay. Is it? She looked back. Because I spent months grieving someone who wasn't dead, and now he's standing here asking for forgiveness, and I don't know if I have any left to give. Cassian stepped closer, slowly, carefully. I'm not asking for forgiveness right now. I'm asking for a chance to prove I'll never hide from you again. How? However you need me to. Sky's shoulders dropped. I'm tired, Cassian. I'm so tired of hurting. I know. His voice was soft, gentle. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you don't hurt like this again. You can't promise that. I can promise I'll try. She looked at him for a long time, searching his face for something. Truth, maybe. Or proof he meant what he said. I don't trust you, she said finally. I understand. But I don't want to lose you again either. His breath caught. I don't know what that makes me, she continued. Stupid, maybe. Weak. It makes you brave, Cassian said. Braver than I ever was. Because staying after someone hurts you is harder than leaving. Sky's lip trembled. I want to hate you. I know. But I can't. A tear slid down her cheek. I tried. I really tried. Cassian closed the distance between them. Slowly, giving her time to step back if she wanted. She didn't. He knelt in front of her again. Eye level now. I will spend the rest of my life proving I'm sorry, he said. Not with words, with actions, with presence, with truth. Sky stared at him. You promise? I promise. You promised before, she whispered. You promised you'd be there, and then you weren't. Cassian's chest tightened. You're right. My promises haven't been worth much, so I won't ask you to believe them. I'll just show you. Every day. Until you trust me again. Sky reached out slowly, hesitantly, like she wasn't sure he was real. Her small hand touched his face. He closed his eyes, tears falling against her palm. You're really here, she whispered. I'm really here. Don't leave again. I won't. Even if it's dangerous, even then. She pulled her hand back, wrapped her arms around herself. I need time, she said. Take all the time you need. Sky didn't leave the cemetery. Neither did Cassian. They sat on the grass near his grave. Not close, not touching. Just existing in the same space for the first time in months. The silence stretched. Heavy but not unbearable. Finally, Sky spoke. What happens now? Cassian looked at her. Whatever you want. I don't know what I want. That's okay too. She pulled at the grass, ripping small pieces, letting them fall. Everyone at school is probably talking about you. About the press conference. About how you're alive. Probably. They're going to ask me questions. What will you tell them? She shrugged. I don't know. That I'm confused, that I'm angry, that I don't have answers. Those are all true. Yeah, she paused. Are you staying? Or are you going to disappear again when things get hard? The question cut deep. I'm staying, Cassian said firmly. I'm not hiding anymore. Not from you. Not from anyone. What if they come back? The people who threatened me. They won't. They're in custody. Evidence is locked. They're finished. Sky looked at him. How do you know for sure? Because I made sure. Because I spent every day since I left making sure you'd be safe enough for me to come back. She was quiet for a moment. You really watched me every day? Yes. That's weird. I know. But also kind of sad. Cassian nodded. It was the saddest thing I've ever done. Watching you hurt and not being able to stop it. You could have stopped it, she said. You could have told me the truth. And put you in danger. Maybe I would have been okay with danger if it meant having you. Cassian's throat tightened. You shouldn't have to choose between safety and love. You deserve both. But I didn't get both. Her voice was small. I got safety I didn't ask for and loneliness I didn't deserve. He had no argument for that. She was right. Sky stood up slowly, brushed grass off her jeans. I should go. My mom's probably worried. Cassian stood too. Can I drive you? She hesitated. I don't know. It's okay if the answer is no. She looked at him, really looked, at the exhaustion in his eyes, the guilt in his posture, the desperate hope on his face. Okay, she said finally. You can drive me. They walked to his car in silence. He opened the passenger door for her. She climbed in without looking at him. The drive was quiet. Radio off, windows cracked, just the sound of the road and their breathing. Cassian glanced at her a few times. She stared out the window. I'm sorry, he said, softly. You keep saying that. Because I keep meaning it. She didn't respond. When they reached her building, she unbuckled slowly, hand on the door handle. Cassian? Yeah? Did you mean it? When you said I mattered more than anything? Yes. She nodded, opened the door, got out. Then she leaned back in. I'll see you tomorrow. His heart stopped. Tomorrow. At the center. If you're really staying, then show up. Not as a donor, not as some big name, just as you. I will, he said, voice shaking. I promise. Don't promise, she said. Just do it. She closed the door and walked toward her building. Cassian watched her until she disappeared inside. Then he pressed his forehead against the steering wheel and cried. Not from sadness, from relief. She didn't forgive him, but she gave him a chance to earn it back, and that was more than he deserved. That night, Sky sat on her bed holding the scholarship certificate, staring at it, wondering if he really paid for it, wondering how many other invisible things he'd done. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. This is Cassian. I got your number from the center's records. I'm sorry if that's invasive. I just wanted you to have a way to reach me, if you need anything. Or if you just want to tell me you're still angry. Either is okay. She stared at the message. Typed and deleted 3 different responses. Finally sent, I'm still angry. His reply came immediately. I know. Good night, Sky. She put the phone down, lay back on her bed, stared at the ceiling. He's alive, she whispered to the empty room. And for the first time in months, she fell asleep without crying. Cassian arrived at the youth center 30 minutes early. He sat in his car staring at the building. The same building where he first met Sky, where she asked if he actually cared or just wrote checks. His hands gripped the steering wheel. What if she changed her mind? What if she didn't show up? What if seeing him here made everything worse? He forced himself out of the car, walked through the doors. The staff froze when they saw him. Whispers started immediately. Is that, he's alive? I thought he was dead. Cassian ignored them, walked straight to the corner table where he and Sky used to sit. He sat down, waited. Kids started arriving, some stared, some pointed. One asked loudly, aren't you supposed to be dead? Not anymore, Cassian said quietly. At 3:15, Sky walked in. She stopped when she saw him. Their eyes met across the room. She didn't smile, didn't wave, just walked over slowly and sat down across from him. "You came," she said. "I said I would." "You've said a lot of things." He nodded. Didn't argue. She pulled out her notebook, opened it, stared at a blank page. "I don't know what to say to you," she admitted. "You don't have to say anything." "Then why are you here?" "Because you told me to show up, so I'm showing up." She looked at him. "For how long?" "As long as you'll let me." Sky chewed on her pencil, a habit she had when she was thinking. "People keep asking me about you. At school. Teachers. Other kids. Everyone wants to know if I knew you were alive." "What did you tell them?" "That I didn't." She paused. "That I cried at your grave and you let me." Cassian flinched. "Was that wrong?" she asked. "Should I have lied?" "No, you should tell the truth, even if it makes me look bad." "It does make you look bad." "Good." She blinked. "Good? I don't want you protecting my reputation. I want you being honest about how I hurt you." Sky set her pencil down. "You're confusing." "How?" "You're saying all the right things, but I don't know if I believe them yet." "That's fair." She stared at her notebook. "I drew something last night. Can I see it?" She hesitated, then turned the notebook toward him. It was a drawing of two figures, one tall, one small. But this time they weren't holding hands. They were standing apart, a gap between them, the small figure looking away. Cassian's chest ached. "That's us right now," Sky said. "Separate. I don't know if we'll ever be close again." "Maybe we won't be," Cassian said honestly. "Maybe I broke something that can't be fixed the same way. But maybe we can build something new, something different, something stronger because it survived being broken." Sky looked at him. "You really think that's possible?" "I have to believe it is." She picked up her pencil again, started sketching, not looking at him, just drawing. Cassian watched her, the way her brow furrowed when she concentrated, the way she bit her lip when she wasn't sure about a line, the way she existed in the world like she was still deciding if she belonged in it. "I missed this," he said quietly. "Missed what?" "Watching you draw, sitting with you, being in the same room." She didn't respond, just kept drawing. After a while she turned the notebook again. The same two figures, but this time the gap was smaller. The small figure was turned slightly toward the tall one, not facing them completely, just turned. "That's progress," she said. "Maybe." Cassian's eyes burned. "Maybe is enough." They sat in silence for another 20 minutes. Other kids came and went. Staff members glanced over. The world kept moving. But at that corner table, time felt slower, heavier, like each minute mattered more than usual. When Sky's mom texted that she was outside, Sky packed up her things slowly. "Will you be here tomorrow?" she asked. "Yes." "What about the day after?" "Yes." "Every day?" "Every day you want me here." She nodded, stood up, hesitated. Then she did something that surprised them both. She reached out and touched his hand, just briefly, just for a second. "Thank you for coming," she whispered. Then she left. Cassian sat there alone, staring at the spot where her hand had been. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a beginning. 3 weeks passed. Cassian showed up every day, same table, same time. Sometimes Sky talked, sometimes she didn't. Some days she drew while he sat quietly. Other days she asked questions. "Why did you pick me?" she asked one afternoon. "Out of all the kids at the center, why did you care about me?" Cassian thought carefully. "You asked me if I actually cared. No one had ever asked me that before. Everyone else just said thank you and moved on. But you wanted to know if I meant it. Did you?" "Not at first," he admitted. "At first I was just doing what looked good. But then I met you, and you made me want to mean it." Sky nodded slowly, went back to drawing. Another day she asked, "Do you have nightmares about the threats, about what could have happened?" "Every night," Cassian said. I dream about them finding you, hurting you, and me being too late. I have nightmares too, she said quietly. About being alone. About no one coming when I need them. I'm here now. I know, but my brain doesn't always believe it yet. He understood that. Trust didn't rebuild on a schedule. One afternoon, Sky brought her scholarship certificate. I need to know something, she said. Did you pay for this? Cassian met her eyes. Yes. What else did you pay for? Your apartment repairs, your heater, your locks, security around this building, teacher training programs, tutoring resources. Sky's hands tightened on the certificate. Why? Because you deserved better than what you had, and I couldn't give it to you openly. So I gave it to you invisibly. That's not the same. I know, but it was all I had. She folded the certificate carefully. I don't know how to feel about that. You helped me, but you also lied to me. Both things are true. Both things can be true, Cassian said. People can hurt you and help you at the same time. It doesn't make the hurt less real, but it doesn't erase the help either. Sky looked at him. You sound like a therapist. I've been seeing one, trying to figure out how to be better. Does it work? Sometimes. Other times I just cry for an hour. She almost smiled. Almost. At the end of the 4th week, something shifted. Sky sat down and pulled out 2 drawings, placed them side by side. The first one, 2 figures far apart. Small figure turned away. The second one, 2 figures closer. Small figure facing the tall one, not touching yet, but facing. This is where we started, she said, pointing to the first. This is where we are now, pointing to the second. Cassian looked at both drawings. Where do you want us to be? She pulled out a third drawing. 2 figures holding hands, a small sun in the corner, hearts above their heads. Here, she said, eventually, not now, but someday. His throat tightened. Can I keep this? Which one? All of them. They show the journey, not just the ending. Sky pushed them toward him. Okay, but don't lose them. I won't. She picked up her pencil, started a new drawing. Cassian watched her work. The room hummed with other kids' voices. Staff members moved around. Life continued. But at their table, something fragile and important was being rebuilt. One pencil, stroke at a time. That night, Cassian taped all 3 drawings to his wall, stared at them before bed. The first drawing hurt. Reminder of damage he caused. The second drawing gave him hope. Proof she was trying. The third drawing made him cry, because it meant she still believed they could get there. He texted her, "Thank you for today." She replied 20 minutes later, "You're still annoying." He smiled through tears. I know. Another message came, but less annoying than before. Cassian pressed the phone to his chest. Progress wasn't linear. Some days Sky was warm, other days she was cold. Some days she smiled at him, other days she barely looked up, but she kept showing up, and so did he. That's what mattered, not perfection, not immediate forgiveness, just 2 people choosing to try. One day at a time, one drawing at a time, one small moment of trust at a time. If this story touched your heart, subscribe so you never miss stories like this, ones that remind us healing is possible even after the deepest betrayal. And before we get to the ending, comment below. What's one thing someone did that helped you heal from a broken relationship? I want to hear your stories too. 2 months after Cassian came back, Sky asked him to go somewhere with her. Where? He asked. You'll see. They drove in silence. Comfortable now, not heavy like before. When they pulled into the cemetery, Cassian's hands tightened on the wheel. Sky, it's okay, she said. I need to do this. They walked together to his grave. The flowers were old now, wilted. The drawings she'd left were gone, taken by wind or rain or time. Just the stone remained, his name, his face, his false dates. Sky knelt down. Cassian stood behind her. I used to come here every week, she said, sometimes more. I told this stone everything I couldn't tell anyone else. She placed her hand on the marble. I told it I was lonely, that I missed you, that I didn't know how to keep going. Her voice stayed steady. I told it I loved you, even though I thought you were gone. Cassian's breath caught. She stood up, turned to face him. I was so angry when I found out you were alive, angrier than I've ever been. I know, but I'm not angry anymore. She paused. Or maybe I am, but it's smaller now, quieter. What changed? He asked softly. You showed up, every single day, even when I didn't talk to you, even when I was cold, even when I made it hard. She stepped closer. You kept your promise, the one about proving it with actions instead of words. Cassian's eyes burned. I'll keep proving it, for as long as you need. I know. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded paper. I drew something. For you. She handed it to him. He unfolded it carefully. 2 figures holding hands, small figure smiling, tall figure smiling back, a bright sun, hearts everywhere, but this time there was text at the bottom. We survived the breaking. Now we get to survive the healing. Cassian couldn't speak, could barely breathe. It's not perfect yet, Sky said. I'm still hurt sometimes. I still have bad dreams. I still wonder if you'll leave again. I won't. I'm starting to believe that. She looked back at the grave. I don't think I need to come here anymore. The person I was talking to isn't in the ground. He's standing right here. Cassian dropped to his knees, pulled her into a hug. She didn't pull away. She wrapped her small arms around his neck and held on. I missed your hugs, she whispered. I missed everything about you. They stayed like that for a long time, in front of a grave that never should have existed, in front of a lie that almost destroyed them both, but they survived it, together. When they finally pulled apart, Sky wiped her eyes. Can we go get ice cream? She asked. Cassian laughed, a real laugh, the first one in months. Yes. Absolutely, yes. They walked back to the car, left the cemetery behind, left the grief behind, left the grave behind, because the dead man was alive, and the girl who cried for him finally got him back. Not perfect, not without scars, but real. At the ice cream shop, Sky got chocolate, Cassian got vanilla. They sat outside, sun warm on their faces. I'm proud of you, Cassian said suddenly, for your scholarship, for your strength, for giving me another chance when you didn't have to. Sky looked at him. I'm proud of me too. You should be. She took a bite of ice cream. Can I ask you something? Anything. Are you happy? Now that you're not hiding? Cassian thought about it. I'm getting there. Being with you makes me happy. Knowing you're safe makes me happy. Having a second chance makes me happy. Good, she smiled, a real smile. Because I'm getting there too. They finished their ice cream, drove back to her building. Before she got out, she hugged him again. Thank you, she said. For what? For coming back. Even though it was hard. Even though I made it harder. You didn't make it harder. You made it worth it. She squeezed tighter, then let go. See you tomorrow? She asked. See you tomorrow. She walked into her building. Cassian sat in the car, stared at the drawing she'd given him. We survived the breaking. Now we get to survive the healing. He pressed it to his chest, started the car, drove away from the cemetery, away from the grave, away from the lies, toward something better, toward trust rebuilt one day at a time, toward love that survived death even when death was fake, toward home. And home, he realized, had never been a mansion or a foundation, or a name on a building. Home was a corner table at a youth center, Home was a small girl with a notebook full of drawings. Home was wherever Sky was, and for the first time in his life, Cassian Reese was finally going home.